What is going on, everyone? Welcome to the Poke Office. My name is Colin. I don't know about you, but it feels like grading cards in Scarlet and Violet era has gotten extremely tough, like way tougher than it was to grade a card in a Gem Mint 10 from Sword and Shield era. So I wanted to look at the actual numbers and see if this is just made up in my head, or maybe I've gotten worse at like pre-grading my cards. So let's take a look. I went to PSA, got into the pop reports, looked at how many total cards were graded of the big cards, how many got a 10, how many got a 9, and then we're going to compare Sword and Shield to the Scarlet and Violet big cards. So let's take a look. All right, here's how the page is working. Up here we got the Tyranitar, so the title of the card. Of course, you can see the card. I got that on there. And now up here, this was from my spreadsheet, so it's just like, this is the header. So you got your card, then total number graded. This is the number right here in a PSA 10. So for the Tyranitar, 6,211 cards total were graded. 3,544 got a 10, meaning they had a 57% chance to get a Gem Mint 10. Then there was 2121 of the PSA 9, so 34% chance to get a 9, and others, so anything less than that I just included, and that's a little less than 10%. Down here we have the prices, so the raw card, all of these numbers are taken from price charting, which I really don't like the price charting numbers typically, but just to keep it all from the same source, that's where all of these numbers are from. So raw, $103.43 for this Tyranitar V card. In a Gem Mint 10, it's $274.99. In a PSA 9, it's $116.74. This 10 factor right here is the number you have to multiply the raw value by to get the PSA 10. So $103.43 times 2.66 gets you right close to $274. There's a little bit of rounding happening, but it's pretty darn close. So Tyranitar V, really 57%, that's pretty decent. And you have to remember that most people send into PSA already having done their homework, having done their pre-grading. Like you can use a centering tool, you can use one of those magnifying glasses to make sure there's no like visible scratches. Even just looking closely at the card with your bare naked eye to see, is there any white spots in the corners? Does the centering look good right off the bat? Like all this stuff. So 6,211 cards, a decent amount, anything too crazy, but I don't know, I'd be pretty happy with 57% for sure. And it felt like that was the case in lots of the Sword and Shield cards. Like I had a pretty good percentage, especially when I did that pre-grading, grading these cards. Like I graded a Blaziken VMAX probably almost a year ago now, and definitely got a 10 on it, which is awesome. $232 for this one raw, $420 for the Blaziken VMAX in a Gem Mint 10, and $262.50 in a PSA 9, a 10 factor of 1.81, and a 70.7% chance of a PSA 10, which is pretty solid for sure. 4,799 total cards for Blaziken graded, so a little less than the Tyranitar. Does this mean that this card was just harder to pull? Like, I don't have all the data in front of me, but it would be really interesting to like do a really big deep dive into this. What was the pull rates? Then you get them sent in for grading. Or maybe it's a matter of, is the Blaziken just really hard to grade out of the pack? Like maybe the centering was bad on most of them, so people didn't send them in the first place. Or maybe they printed less. Like, you know, there's so many different factors going on here. But this card, interesting. One of my favorite cards out of Sword and Shield for sure. I like it a lot. Then we're into Evolving Skies. This one, obviously, people ripped into like a million times over, and lots of grading happening. Only going to look at the two cards, Rayquaza VMAX, and then, of course, the Umbreon. So Rayquaza VMAX, 11,157 cards graded, and 8,268 got a Gem Mint 10. So 74%, that's the biggest number we've seen so far. Somehow, I've graded 3 of these myself and have never gotten a Gem Mint 10, so I just clearly suck. This card going raw right now for $328.33. Again, it's price charting. I think that number is not very good, but just take it with a grain of salt. A Gem Mint 10's going for $580. The PSA 9, $365. This is the other thing I haven't said yet. If you're grading and you get a Gem Mint 9, not a Gem Mint 9, I said that wrong. If you get a PSA Mint 9, you're going to be losing money because the grading fee costs, if you do it in a bulk submission, $15. On this card, it's more than $200 value, and they're upcharging like a lot in recent times. So you're looking at $25 to $40 to grade this card. So you're losing money if you're getting the Mint 9. But if you're getting the Gem Mint 10, you're increasing your money by a factor of 1.77, which is pretty solid. Obviously, you still have to pay for that grading, so it's a little bit less than 1.77. But you get the picture. I like it. 74%. It's looking good. So maybe there is something to be said. Is Sword and Shield actually easier to grade? Look at this Umbreon. This is the biggest number we've seen yet, of course, because the most popular card in in Pokemon Modern. 16,754 total cards graded as of this day. 12,632 PSA 10s. That's a lot. And we talked about it on the channel before, but there's like millions of people who want this card. Actually, millions of people who want this card. And there's only 12,600. That's not a substantial amount. Like, it is a hard card to pull. And, I mean, clearly it's a pretty easy card to grade in a Gem Mint 10. 75.4%. Absolutely unbelievable. This card raw, $763 on price charting. PSA 10, $1,247.49. And the PSA 9, $725. So, again, losing money on the Mint 9. Gaining some money by a factor of 1.63 on the Gem Mint 10. Espeon from Fusion Strike, this number drops now back down below 10,000, so not quite as popular as the Evolving Skies stuff. And I think the pull rates in Fusion Strike were maybe even tougher. Is that a thing? I don't know for sure, but that's just my guess. 9,221 total graded Espeon VMAX cards, 6,124 PSA 10s, giving it a total 66.4% for the Gem Mint 10. So a little bit down, but still pretty darn good, I'd say. And again, let's take a step back. These are cards that people have pre-graded already. So if you think that your card has a good chance of getting a Gem Mint 10 on this card, this is my kind of experience talking. If you think it has a good chance at getting the Gem Mint 10, then you send it in. This card right now has a 66.4% chance on that card that you thought had a really good chance. So that's where it actually is a little bit tough. Okay, this card raw going for 172, PSA 10 going for 326, PSA 9 205. I think this card is worth more than the 172. Again, price charting numbers are just funny. But the 10 factor 1.89. Okay, Gengar. The PSA 10% is dropping again. And this card, another popular one, 11,156 total cards graded. 48 of them got the Gem Mint 10. Again, you think that your card has a great chance at getting a Gem Mint 10, and you send this Gengar VMAX in, it has a 61.4% on that card you thought had a really good chance. But this card, the 10 factor, 2.33, I think that's the highest 10 factor we've seen. So this card more than doubles when you sell it as a Gem Mint 10. And right now, the PSA 9, I just don't think that's updated quite right. Holding strong at 305. Okay, the Charizard V from Brilliant Stars. Check this out. 16,986. If we go back to the Umbreon, there's more Charizard Vs from Brilliant Stars graded than the Umbreon VMAX. That is quite something. And a 56.2% chance for the Gem Mint 10, 9,540 of them. Kind of crazy. I'm going to tell you, you're going to be shocked at how popular Charizard is in this video. It's actually absurd. 56.2%. This card, $126 raw, $273 in a Gem Mint 10, meaning it has a 10 factor 2.16. So we're still okay. Still holding strong. The Machamp has a 59.3% chance of getting the Gem Mint 10. Not many of these cards graded, only 4,621. I think that might be the lowest number we've seen. Maybe the Blaziken was low like that too. 2,738 of them got the Gem Mint 10, so almost 60%. $111 for this Machamp V raw, $253 for the Gem Mint 10, factor of 2.28. I like to see that factor in the twos because it means you're doubling your money if you get a Gem Mint 10, which makes the risk decently worth it, I'd say. Giratina, this is the first percentage for a Gem Mint 10 that we've seen under 50%. The Giratina is at 48.1%. Total graded, this is another popular card, 10,590 of them, and just under 50% got the Gem Mint 10, 5,093. This card going raw for $333. PSA 10, 649, 10 factor 1.95, pretty close to the 2, so another fun card to grade. I've graded 2 or 3 of these, I can't remember. I haven't got a 10 on them either, so this one also was tough in my own personal experience. The Lugia, Back jumping up to 60.5%, which is nice and a very, very popular card. I'd suspect lots of this has to do with those God packs. Lots of people were pulling this in the reprint of Silver Tempest. 16,269 total Lugias graded, and 9,837 got the Gem Mint 10. $162.75 for this card raw, $328 for the Gem Mint 10. A factor 2.02, another nice one, and 60%. You can't complain about that. Last big card out of Sword and Shield, the Giratina V-Star, another popular one. 12,097 of them graded, and 58.7%. So really, it feels like we're kind of in that 60% average for Sword and Shield, getting the Gem Mint 10 on those cards that you think have a good chance, which, I mean, that seems reasonable. So now here's what's going to be interesting to look at as we move into Scarlet and Violet era. Does that PSA 10 percentage stay the same? Is it because the quality control got worse in Scarlet and Violet? Is it because PSA is cracking down on the Gem Mint 10s and handing them out like candy? I don't know. We'll see. Okay, this card raw $95, PSA 10 188, factor 1.96. We're into the Miriam. This is crazy. 9,033. So people started off strong, grading lots of cards. 3,659 got the Gem Mint 10. 40.5% chance. That's pretty low. Pretty low. This card raw has dropped substantially, $26 right now, but the PSA 10 still holding strong at $107. A factor of 4.14. That is a play for some Pokemon investing right there, if you can find good copies of this Miriam card, because that is delightful. But again, now, instead of having that 60% chance, you have a 40% chance. So you're risking it for the biscuit a little bit more to grade this card. The Iono, 6,158. Total cards graded, 2,996. Got the Gem Mint 10. Closer to 50%, but still under it for that percentage. This card's $63 raw, $157 in a Gem Mint 10, a 2.47 factor, which is pretty nice. Lots of the Scarlet and Violet factors are going to be pretty high, but you're seeing that total graded amount of these cards dropping. Magikarp, 4,384. So again, a big drop. Check this out. This card is hard to grade in a Gem Mint 10, which makes me regret it all the more that I sold my Gem Mint 10 copy of this card that I graded. Ugh. $107.25 for this card raw right now. $600 for the Gem Mint 10. 5.59 is the factor. Absolutely wild. So there's got to be some correlation between this card is hard to grade. So that means that when you do get the Gem Mint 10, it's worth more money. But a 5.59 factor, we haven't even seen anything close to that as of yet. So that's something to watch out for. I told you you're gonna see how crazy the Charizard is and how much people love Charizard. This card. So we were just down in the 4,000s of these cards being graded. Now the Charizard from Obsidian Flames comes. 13,967 of these bad boys got graded, and a 29.1% chance. Seriously, there's something to this. The Magikarp was low. This Charizard is low in the percentage. Like, is this card just that hard to grade? Is it the quality control from Pokemon? Is it that PSA's cracking down? Is it a combo? Like, that's what I want you to tell me down in the comments below, because this is just wild stuff. Only 4,062 got the Gem Mint 10, which gives it a factor of 5.27 when the raw card's going for $42 and the Gem Mint 10's going for $221. So another one in the fives, which is absolutely absurd. The Magikarp and the Charizard from Obsidian Flames have a factor of 5. It's a good play, but this card is extremely hard to get in a Gem Mint 10. Charizard EX. This is what I'm talking about, baby. People love Charizard. People love 151. This almost proves it. 18,463 of these cards got graded, and 7,162 got the Gem Mint 10. 38.8% chance. So it's on the rise, but still pretty low. Okay, this card is a 3.28 factor. Raw $100. PSA 10 $328. Then Roaring Moon. Okay, we just went from Charizard 151. Brought so many people back into the hobby, and now we go to Paradox Rift, ancient and future Pokemon that people generally don't seem to care about all that much. Only 2,730 of these got graded, and 1,395. So the percentage jumps up higher again, but not nearly as many of these cards got graded. And you could argue that this is relatively still a new set. Maybe lots more people still have these ready to grade. You can definitely argue that for the upcoming cards that we're going to look at, but my goodness, this is just, that's a big drop compared to the Charizard that had 18,000. Okay, this card has a factor of 3.28, making it a pretty nice play, especially at a 50% Gem Mint 10 percentage. Charizard EX, number jumps back up. Again, this is relatively new, so there's going to be more of these pulled, but 7,588 of these got graded. 60.1% of them got the Gem Mint 10, 4,558 of them total, which is nice. That's back up to like the Sword and Shield average. So maybe there was just this like conglomerate of, let's say, Paldea Evolved, Obsidian Flames, 151, Paradox Rift. Those like sets, was the quality control that bad? I don't remember it being all that bad, but the PSA 10 percentage on the big cards was significantly down. Raging Bolt, this is where I think time starts to come into play. Like, not that many people have graded this card yet. Not that many people have graded the Greninja yet from Twilight Masquerade. So the Raging Bolt, 1,249 of them have been graded so far. A 61.2% Gem Mint 10. So we're back up to that same percentage, and it has a factor right now, 2.47. Not too bad. And then the last card we'll look at, the Greninja, 1,171 of these have been graded. 67.4% chance at a Gem Mint 10 so far. That's pretty good. Pretty good. The few that I've seen in my hand of these cards, like the centering looks good. Everything looks pretty spot on. So maybe the quality control's improved. Maybe PSA has gotten angry customers complaining. I don't know. Tell me what you think down below. Let's take a quick look. Here's a few things that really stood out. So here's the average. Sword and Shield average 62%. And of course, we're only looking at like the top cards of the set. Might be a little bit different if you looked at the whole like big picture. But the top cards of Scarlet and Violet, a 47% average of the Gem Mint 10. So definitely dropped. That's a 15% drop. So there's definitely something to it, like that personal experience of me having a hard time grading Scarlet and Violet cards definitely has something to say here. 15% less chance so far in Scarlet and Violet era. Right here, Charizard is just the king. Look at that. Okay, if we look right here, Umbreon VMAX from Evolving Skies, 16,754 cards total graded. Charizard, more than that, 16,986. Then two Charizards down here, 13,967, 18,463. The biggest numbers are Charizard all over the place, and then you scatter in a few other ones, like Lugia is a popular Pokemon. Of course, the Umbreon VMAX is extremely popular, but that is like a resounding, people still love Charizard. So don't ever think that when some YouTuber or whatever or Instagrammer says, Charizard is overhyped. Yeah, it might be, but people freaking love it. It's crazy. It's crazy. Here's the thing, though. The last standout for me out of doing this video, the numbers are definitely down. People, I would suspect, just are not enjoying Scarlet and Violet as much, or maybe there's just some fatigue for how quick these sets are coming out. I'm enjoying Scarlet and Violet actually more than Sword and Shield, personally. I love everything about Scarlet and Violet era, but definitely there's something to be said. Like, the average here of numbers, most of them are getting close to that 10,000 plus. And here, other than these two Charizards, pretty substantially lower. And I know there might be some reprints happening. We're still early in Scarlet and Violet relatively, but definitely some lower numbers here. I would expect, like, again, it's complex. Maybe Magikarp is a hard card to find well-centered, which it is. Maybe people just don't like the top cards. I'm not sure. I would expect the Greninja to be a heavily graded card, except that the pull rates are really tough. So there's so many complexities. But in the grand scheme of things, I thought this video was really fun to put together. I thought it had some interesting results. Definitely from my experience, grading Scarlet and Violet cards has been significantly tougher so far. When I first did my grading, this is 2 years ago already, I got like 29 out of 35 of my first graded submission back as Gem Mint 10s. Last time I don't even know, it was like 15 out of 70. It was a terrible percentage of getting Gem Mint 10s for me, and I do the homework, so it's tough, but let me know what your thoughts are. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to subscribe to the channel with bell notifications on. Hit the like button. Leave a comment. Appreciate you watching. And until my next one. Peace.